Alright everybody, so after reviewing the YouTube policies and guidelines, we are re-uploading this video with blurred images to comply with the standards that YouTube has for content referring to minors. This was a giant brawl that took place on the streets of central Tampa, outside of a high school. There were adults and minors involved. Sadly, some of the adults were also instigators in this scenario. While I don't know what started the problem, I do know what instigated it, and a lot of it was gang related. Now, I don't think these kids are real gang members. They're imitating what they see on YouTube music videos and in the music they listen to. I'm not going to mention what gangs were involved, although I pretty much figured it out by looking at the gang signs. These little jits are not real gangsters. They throw up gang signs, and when you ask them about the stuff they need to know if they're really part of these groups, they don't know anything. So at the end of the day, these are not real gangsters. These are kids imitating the garbage that is being fed to them through social media. I want to compliment the Tampa Police Department for doing an outstanding job at handling this situation. In particular, there was a female sergeant who handled it very well. I think this cop shaking his spray bottle, I'm not sure if he was just doing it to intimidate, but that was probably the most outrageous thing we saw from law enforcement. For the most part, most of these officers, particularly this female officer here, did a great job of controlling and de-escalating this situation. Now, to the young kids, when I was your age going to school here in Florida, I'm not going to tell you that I wasn't part of brawls like this. In fact, I instigated a brawl in Gulf Coast High School that just about got me 10 days in out-of-school suspension in an alternative program, and it also got me eventually expelled from that high school. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I wasn't in your position when I was your age, because I was. And looking back on it, I want to give you some words of advice, because at the end of the day, these are just kids in a very bad environment, adults that give a horrific example. When I was your age, I was in this situation, so I'm not judging you. But I'll tell you this, I know for a fact that when I was in the same exact situation where I started a brawl in high school, it was a problem between me and another group of people, and there was 100 kids running around instigating things that made it a lot worse. So I know for a fact that these kids that are onlookers in this situation make it seem a lot worse than what it actually is. I'm not a gang member. I never joined a gang growing up, but I am classified as a gang member by the Cortland County Sheriff's Office because of the neighborhood that I lived in. They believed I was in a particular gang, and because, of course, the fact that they documented us with certain clothing, they believed that we were gang members. Little jits in the background of today's video that were here today, listen to my message to you. Tomorrow, you're going to be a documented gang member. These cops here, you might think you made a whole scene and you got away with it. Every last one of these police cars and every last one of these police officers has cameras. All that camera footage is going to get reviewed by the Tampa gang unit. These guys are going to spend a week looking at 50 different cameras that were here. They're going to listen to the words you said. They're going to take screenshots of the gang signs that you threw up. And maybe a year or two from now, you're going to get pulled over by a police officer. Maybe you're going to be an adult with your own family in the future. 10 years from now, you're going to get pulled over. And that police officer is going to pull up those images and say, look, here's a gang member. When the cops pull you over, you're going to say, why you pull me over, dawg? Why you profiling me, dawg? Why the police following me, dawg? Because here they have you on video throwing up gang signs. They're going to save those images, and it's going to be attached to your name. And every time you get pulled over by a police officer's going to click and say, oh, here we have a picture of him throwing up a gang. He's a gang member. And then you're going to end up on one of those police videos. Why you bothering me, dog? I ain't did nothing, muffin, and all that crap. But you did do something. You, every one of these kids, I saw 6 of them that were throwing up gang signs in front of police officers while the police officers said they're idly. What these kids don't know is that they are now marked for the rest of their lives as gang members. And this isn't information that you're going to know. This is information that when a police pulls your name, when an investigation happens in your neighborhood, when anything happens in this neighborhood moving forward, when there's a homicide investigation, when there's a home invasion robbery, or when you are in front of a judge, this is all background information that the people in the jury might not know, but the judge on the stand will. You might think that because they can't arrest you because you're just a little jit, that you got away with this. But this day is going to come back and haunt you for the rest of your life, because these police officers are going to spend 50 hours watching all this surveillance footage. They're going to say, okay, these 5 kids were on the left side, these 5 kids were on the right side. So a year from now, a month from now, when there's something more serious that happens, they're going to know who the instigators are. See, like this person here signaling. He's literally right in front of 2 police cars that have cameras. The cops know that you're the one that instigated this, bro. Could they arrest you for disorderly conduct? Sure. Will they? Absolutely not. They're going to save all this footage, and they're going to wait till tomorrow when you commit something more serious, and then you're going to grab your entire life and throw it down the garbage can. Let me tell you, little jit, something about me. Me personally, when I finally got caught up with the kids from the neighborhood, the kids that were out there doing all this stuff right here with me, those kids were the first people to snitch on me. And when they got arrested or detained by law enforcement, they cooperated so much that they didn't go to jail. But they did now have law enforcement go after me because they pointed a finger my way. Thankfully, I was smarter than they were and able to get out of it. But then the real thing that I'm trying to teach you is all these kids that you're running with today, that you think today are down with you, are going to be the first people that are going to snitch when they get caught. When they get caught for something and the cops say, hey, look, you're going to go away for a long time. We're going to take you in the backseat of this police car so you can see your mom for the last time. Those little jits are going to start talking right there on the spot. And you know who they're going to point a finger at? You. The kids you did home invasion robberies with. The kids that you threw up gang signs and marked gang graffiti with. Those are the kids that are going to be in the backseat of that patrol car in front of your house, pointing at your mama's house, and in the back of their car with their mama telling them, baby, tell them everything so they let you go. With the YouTube policies, I have to blur the faces, but some of these quote-unquote children are actually bigger than the adults and are absolute monsters and bullies. Like this individual right here who was trying to fight with a grown 300-pound man, and I'm pretty sure her big giant bully would have been able to fight with him and whoop him. So here you got kids that are in middle school, but they're 340 pounds, absolute bullies and monsters. And those kids like that are trying to fight with grown adults who can't control their temper. Now, the adults in this situation, I think they pretended to be doing the right thing in front of my camera. When I came around with my camera, they acted a certain way, but I had a police officer who gave me a hint, and I listened to the police officer's hint and walked away, and it's just as I thought. Turns out that the adults were actually the instigators. And again, I'm not pointing a finger at anybody in this situation, and I'm not saying it was these individuals here, but there were adults involved in this situation that were actually instigating the situation. There were property owners trying to get people off their properties. There was people that were instigating the situation. But at the end of the day, law enforcement knows all of this. I had 1 camera on the ground. They had 50. Now, there was a lot of older people that got involved for the neighborhood trying to get these kids to figure out what time it is, but they ain't going to listen. They're going to run this up. They think it's cool. They're peer pressured into thinking that this lifestyle is a lifestyle that they need to follow. And again, the Tampa Police Department handled this situation beautifully. I really think they did a great job. It's a shame that because of social media and the way they want to PC everything, they want to politically correct everything. But I wish that these police officers could have maced the life out of every last one of these little jits, because they need it for their own good. And that's the problem with today's society. When they're this age here, they can run around riots and do all this crime and laugh at the police. But what they don't know is the police are the ones really laughing at them. They think because they're little jits, the cops can't put their hands on them. But what they don't know is that the last laugh is going to be these police officers 2 years from now when they get pulled over and they're talking about, why are you police profiling me? But they don't know that they've already got a whole list of documentation on you, just like they have it on me, and it's plaguing me for the rest of my life. I've been profiled everywhere I go. A Collier County police officer can't pull behind me without pulling me over, even if I'm not doing anything, because they think, based on the things that I did when I was this age, that I'm continuing to be a menace to society. So while you might think that right now in high school you can do these riots and do all this crap and none of it is going to follow you for the rest of your life, you're mistaken. These police officers that are here today may have not done anything to you on this particular day, but they got 50 cameras and they saw everything you did, and for the rest of your life they're going to have a picture of you throwing up a gang sign, and that's going to show up a year from now, 5 years from now, 20 years from now. a few years down the road, in this neighborhood, there's going to be a shooting. And these police officers are going to have footage of every kid in this neighborhood. And I'm pretty sure already, just by your behavior on this day in front of 50 freaking cameras, they know who they're going to be looking for. Whether you did it or not, once you mark yourself, they have no problem throwing a random shooting on you, because at the end of the day, you showed them disrespect, and they're going to hold that against you. And really, the scary thing about this scenario isn't that a bunch of jits shut down an entire neighborhood for the afternoon on a Monday out of all days of the week, right? On a Monday, they shut down an entire neighborhood with their little riot and their little thing. That's not really the problem. The problem is going to be these individual kids that are throwing up gang signs in front of police cars, that tomorrow an investigator, one of these crime units, is going to pick up this video, and they're going to start to piece together who these gang members are. They're going to know who you are. They're going to know who your associates are. And they're compiling a freaking dictionary, a Wikipedia about your neighborhood. Before your story even starts, they're already marking an end to it. When I was in middle school, I didn't have none of the clothes that you kids have. So you might live in an inner city neighborhood and think that the police is your enemy and they're out to get you. But the reason these cops are there is because you called that attention to yourself. I'm looking at these kids wearing Jordans in high school. When I was in high school, I used to have to wear fake Converses. They made fun of me. My school wasn't everybody that I grew up with in my neighborhood. My school was 96% rich white kids who made fun of me for my shoes. If I wore a pair of Jordans or the Nikes or the Air Force Ones, you already know where they came from. They came from somebody who stole them because we couldn't afford to get it. So when I see all these kids wearing all this fly clothes, all these Jordans and expensive shoes, you guys don't have it bad. Now, in my case, my mother got sick when I was 14, and when I was 16 years old, she died from cancer. My dad was sick. I've been working since I was 13 years old. None of these kids had a job to get to when they got out of high school. They hit the high school, they got out of school, and they walked into the streets starting crap. None of these kids have a background where they can say, I have to be out here thugging. They're not going to a job when they got out of high school. When I was your age, I got out of high school and went to work, and I'm not that much older than you. These parents are an absolute embarrassment because they're letting their kids out here act a fool in public, disrespect law enforcement. A lot of the kids that were out there, police officers that were family members, I recognized one police officer looked at a little girl and said, you better get your little home, because he knew her. I guess it was a police officer that knew her family. He looked at her, pointed at her, and says, you better get home. And she walked away and left the crowd because the police officer knew her. That means that at least her parents were decent enough to where if they knew what she was doing, they'd have given her the that she needed for putting herself in this environment. But it was good that that police officer was there to tell her to leave. But the vast majority of these parents are absolutely complicit in these kids' behaviors. I want to hear all this, the police is racist, dawg. You out there acting a fool, drawing attention to your neighborhood, and all these kids are well-dressed. They got everything they need. They don't look hungry. They don't got to go work at Publix when they get out of work. They got good shoes, good clothes, good book bags. They got everything they need, and they out there acting a fool. The parents ought to be embarrassed. Why do I say the parents ought to be embarrassed? Because instead of buying your kids a $100, $200 pair of Jordans, you ought to spend some time with them and teach them how to behave, because this right here is the result of bad parenting. This is the result of not having a father in the household that the kids are afraid of. This is the society that we are creating. And I know a lot of people in the comments section, what they're going to say, it happened to be a black school, white schools would have done it, Hispanic schools would have done it. This is a problem in the entirety of the state of Florida. When I lived over there in Fort Myers, it was a white kid over there in that school by Tice over there, what the crap they call that school. Off of Buckingham, that school is buck wild and it's a white school. It got nothing to do with race. It has to do with the fact that people today are not teaching their kids the right thing. And law enforcement, unfortunately, has to sit there and not do nothing about it, because if they do what they ought to done to them, this type of crap wouldn't be happening in the community. But unfortunately, law enforcement, it ain't the police's job, nor is it the teacher's job to raise these kids. It's you as a parent. And the sad thing is that once again, it is the adults that were on the ground that gave the absolute worst example to the children. The example of we're victims of racism, we're victims of discrimination, all the pow doll type people. Those are the type of people that instead of giving these kids a good example and scorning these kids and telling them what I did. Now, them kids right there, I went up to them on camera and I told them what I needed to tell them as a grown man. They're not even my race to listen to me. But even though they're a different race than me, I pulled my car right there in front of that police car and I got face to face with these kids and I told them what the adults here in this neighborhood should have been telling them what they needed to hear, that they're going to get locked up, that they're going to sit on somebody's laps in jail because they're a little jit. They needed to hear that. I told one of these kids right here, they were screaming at me when I left because I told them, you're going to be sitting on somebody's laps. You're going to be in there washing somebody's underwear. Just like Kodak says in that one song, they up in there washing that's going to be you. But all these little jits think it's a game. They think it's funny until they realize that their whole entire lives are going to be thrown away for a group or organization that they're not even a part of. Because at the end of the day, these are kids. These are not real gangbangers. These are kids that are being misled by the parents, by the music, and by the role models that they have in their community, that instead of teaching them how to be little men and little women, are teaching them to be a bunch of hood rats. My advice to you, young person watching this video, when you see one of these brawls, when you see one of these fights, you just go ahead and walk away. You don't need to be part of it. You don't need to be a bystander, because when the police comes out with that mace, they're going to hit everybody. All these cameras right here watching everybody that's involved in this incident. Make sure that you're not part of it. Make sure that you're not around to see it. Don't run behind the crowd. Run away from these crowds. Now, let me tell you why I had to blur today's video. Because I know some of the parents of these kids, instead of giving them they see this video and say, that's you right there doing that, I'm going to give you, instead of saying that, you know what they're going to do? They're going to go on YouTube and they're going to report me for using images of a minor on YouTube. And they can't do that now because it's blurred. But that's what these parents would have done. So instead of being mad at their kids, this is what's wrong with our society, by the way. Instead of being mad at the kids for starting a brawl, the parents are going to be mad at the YouTuber who uploaded the brawl because it makes their little angel look bad. Because instead of punishing them for bad behavior, they protect them from the consequences of their actions, of their behaviors. The parents of these kids right here are the type of parents that are going to go and try to complain about your video to get your video shut down because they, instead of condemning their children's bad behavior, want to continue to protect them while they do these types of things. And that right there is why these kids are out of control, because they ain't got nobody to tell them what's right and wrong. The cops can't tell them what to do. The teachers can't tell them what to do. The adults in the neighborhood can't tell them what to do. And their parents sure as crap aren't telling them what they need to be doing. And a round of applause to the Tampa Police Department for having to handle this situation the way they did. I think they did a great job. But to the little jits that were involved in this event, remember, there was 50 cameras there. And those 50 cameras are going to be handed to the police gang investigators. And those people are going to make your life a complete misery. Those people are going to try to set you up. They're going to watch you. They're going to pat you down on the way from school. They're going to catch you when you get out of a park. They're going to know that you are entangled with this type of activity, and they're going to catch you unprepared. You're going to think a police officer randomly ran up on you and patted you down, and that wasn't random. That was somebody who's been watching you for months, been studying you, been seeing videos of you. They know what group you're in. They know who you run with. They know where you live. They know every detail about you because they spent hours studying these body cam footages to determine whose life is going to be in prison. Who in this group is going to be in prison for the rest of their lives. There's going to be somebody behind a desk who's going to examine those videos, and they're going to decide this one, that one, and that one are going to spend the rest of their life behind bars, and we're going to make sure to do it. So if you're one of these little jits throwing up gang signs, tomorrow when you get patted down unnecessarily, when the police run up on you unnecessarily, don't think that was random. Don't think it's police profiling. They've been watching you for a very long time. So you never got to see their face because they're behind a desk, but they've been seeing your face. They've been seeing your behavior. They've been knowing where you hang out. They've been knowing who your friends are. And one day there's going to be something serious in your neighborhood, and your name's going to come up because it's been up for a very long time. Now, your parents were born in Cuba, were born in Haiti, were born in a poor African American neighborhood in the United States, and they've done everything they can to send you to school with a brand new pair of Jordans so you can learn and get an education and do something better for yourself. And all it takes is putting yourself around the wrong people. These ain't your homeboys. They ain't gonna be down for you. The moment they tell these friends of yours, they're throwing up the gang signs and doing all the gangster stuff. The moment they say 10 to 15, you know what their finger's going to do? This finger right here is going to point at you and say, oh, that's him. Oh, definitely. He's a leader. He's the one in charge. Yeah, man. He the one telling us to do all this stuff. Just so you know, they got you marked for life. They know who you're running with. They know what you're claiming. And now they even know when something happens in your neighborhood, who they gotta look for. And if you don't believe what I'm saying, there's a rapper out of St. Petersburg, Florida. He got in trouble over here in Palmetto, Florida. There was a bunch of shootings, I think in Bradenton, Palmetto, or in St. Pete, right in the Tampa area. You may remember that when the shooting happened, the cops didn't go to the scene of the shooting. They went to the scene of the houses of the people who they thought were gonna be involved in the shooting, and they caught them not running away from the crime scene, but running back to the crib. Do you hear what I said? Just so you understand legit how law enforcement works in the state of Florida. They know who the bad people are in this neighborhood. When something bad happens in this neighborhood, okay, they're not going to go to the scene of the place where it happened. They're going to go to your mama's house to see you run into the crib, and they're going to see where you hid, whatever you hid, because these cops are very smart. They're smarter than you. When something happens here, when these little cliques right here finally get into it for real, they're not going to run to the scene of where it happened. They're going to run to your mama's house. They're going to go to the place where you guys hang out, where you go to sleep, and they're going to catch you running into the house because they already know who the troublemakers are in this neighborhood. So when something happens here in Tampa, these cops aren't going to go running to the crime scene. They're going to be running to your house first. Back when I was a kid, we're talking more than 15 years ago now, the same thing happened to me. Something goes down, and instead of running to the crime scene, the cops ran to my house and waited for me to arrive. And in the back of my mind is, how did the cops know beforehand that it would have been me? Because they already knew who to anticipate would do certain things. So just so you know, legit, when something happens here in this part of Tampa, they're not going to go looking at the crime scene and ask questions. They're going to go wait for you in front of your house to catch you running back to the crib because they already anticipate who is going to be the one doing the crime. They're ahead of you, 50 steps ahead of you. You don't have a chance. By doing what you did here today, you have marked yourself for the rest of your life. And when you actually do something, they're not going to go investigate the scene. They're going to wait for you to go back from the scene because they're 10 steps ahead of you. You're not smarter than these cops. You're too young. They've seen too much. They live too much. And they're going to ruin your life if you let them. You're already in the cage of the bird trapper and you don't even know it. You're already locked up, man, and you don't even know it. They've already ruined your life and you don't even know it. You're inside the bird catcher's trap and you don't even know it yet. Look, when I was your age, everything that you guys are doing right here, I did it. But today I'm a productive member of society. I'm a YouTuber. I got a nice car, got a nice apartment. I travel. I've been to 30-some states, me and my wife together. I'm able to do all that because I was able to distance myself from the individuals who were trying to ruin my life. And they were the kids in my neighborhood, and it was law enforcement. Many times, police officers in Naples, Carter County, gave me a break. They could have ruined my life 10 times over, and they didn't. They decided to give me a chance. They decided to give me an opportunity. I don't know if these police officers in the city of Tampa are going to do the same thing for you. Hopefully, they understand that you're just kids and that they're doing the same thing that those same police officers would have done when they were your age. Because at the end of the day, when we were that age, we all went through our wild moments. But eventually, it gets a little bit more serious. Eventually, your whole entire life can be thrown away in a moment. All you need today is FL Studios, a YouTube account, a camera, a phone, a computer, and you'll never have to have a boss for the rest of your life. You're living in an age where there's no impediment to your success. You can create music, you can do anything you want with a phone. But if you stay out there thugging, putting yourself around people that are throwing their lives away, you're going to throw away your life with them. They're not going to visit you. They're not going to give you any commissary. They're not going to visit your mama to make sure your mama ain't at home crying. You know what they're going to do? They're going to snitch on you. That's what they all do. That's what my boys did. Luckily for me, I was able to get out of it. Will you be lucky enough, or you want to play your chances? Let me show you guys some of the rides that I have had lately. Recon 250, brand spanking new. GMC 2023, brand new off the lot, 0 miles. I've had convertible old school Benzes. I've bought a 2020 Chevy Silverado cash off the lot, no payment. The 2500 GMC with 22s, bought cash, sound system in the back. Tahoes, Yukons, squatted. I'd have done all that crap with cash money. Clean YouTube money deposited directly into my bank account. As a high school dropout, I didn't have high school on YouTube. Red on red Camry as well. All this legal money using a phone and a computer to upload videos to YouTube. Clean legal money directly deposited into my account simply by working on YouTube. You do not need their system today. You cannot say that you're discriminated today, because today there are opportunities that nobody can stop you from obtaining. You can be anything you want. You can obtain everything you want. When I was in high school, they kicked me out. They told me that I was a gangbanger and I would spend the rest of my life in prison. You hear that so many times over and over that you actually become a believer that you're never going to be anything. And if you watch my YouTube channel, me and my wife have traveled to 37 states and Canada as well for our YouTube channel. I never thought I could have accomplished what I did in my lifetime if I had remained involved with gang, street activity, and bad associations. I would have spent most of my life locked up, thrown my life away. The only reason I was able to live a fulfilling life is because I distanced myself from the people that were doing these types of things with me. And the money means nothing. I've bought houses cash. I've bought cars cash. Money comes as quick as it goes, and it goes as quick as it comes. So monetary things, cars and houses, that doesn't mean you're successful. You can lose all that overnight. So just the fact that I've accomplished these things monetarily doesn't really mean anything. That's not really what's important. What is important is that you live a peaceful, happy life, and these types of individuals are not going to live that life. While you're out here traveling and buying new cars, those kids are going to be locked up, smelling somebody's feet, washing somebody's underwear, getting maced in the face, and you're going to be out here living your best life. Stay away from the streets. It leads to nothing. And get yourself real role models. These rappers are a bunch of addict, piece of crap people. The cars that they have on their YouTube videos are rented. They ain't really buying these cars cash. Those guys are living a lie, and if you're watching it, you're believing it. And they're going to get locked up. Even if they get something, they're going to lose it, because that lifestyle takes everything that you do make from it, because it's not legitimately earned. It has to disappear.